All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We have an excellent guest today. We have 2020 presidential candidate, Adam Kokesh, author, awesome guy, Marine Corps veteran. Salute. And I really appreciate you coming on, man. That's fantastic. And
Thanks, Adam. I appreciate it.
absolutely. And yeah, like we were kind of talking backstage and the thing, I kind of wanted to pick your brain about some things of just like, maybe we can get into some social commentary of like, what the things that are going on in the world and like where we're headed as humanity and just the world in the country and just like the society, I suppose. Like where as a freedom-minded person, like where do you see us headed right now? Like there's a bunch of roads we can take here. There's a bunch of trajectories.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Jumping right into the deep end. I love it.
Yeah, man.
I don't need to set this up too much or introduce myself or anything like that, but I do want to contextualize your question in the light of my work and what I've been doing with Adam versus the Man and Man on the Street videos and podcasts and my message and how it's relevant and what I think is special about the way I talk about the message of freedom. I assume is something you appreciate, and then I ask those bigger, harder questions. And in my analysis of the world and current events, I don't just accept uncertainties. I don't just sort of go, well, we don't know. I guess it could, I at least have to, address that curiosity. And I think that's a big thing of what makes us libertarians generally is that we don't let shit slide. You see contradictions in the world, you see unethical behavior. At first, at least you have to understand it. And then when you understand it, you have to do something about it because you feel empowered by that knowledge and that information. And right now, that's a challenge. COVID is like a dark cloud over everything still. And one of the things that I've been wrong about in my analysis of COVID policy is that it would be as enduring at the level of severity that it has been as long as it has been. And when I'm wrong, I have to ask myself why. If I was wrong about that, something was wrong in my worldview, something was wrong about my model. I think a lot of people in the political sphere and even libertarians, despite our generally higher standard of intellectual integrity and not letting shit slide and satisfying that intellectual curiosity, I think a lot of libertarians, kind of skip over that. And a lot of it is because they don't have what I've built for myself in a perhaps more historically, contextually complete understanding of libertarianism and the course of human progress. And so when I see that I'm so wrong about something that I think I'm so good at and uniquely good at, I'm like, oh shit, now I really got to adjust things here. And I have been a lot lately. And the way I used to talk about it was when they said, hey, 2 weeks to flatten the curve. Hey, remember, the worst part of 2 weeks to flatten the curve is the first 2 years. After that, it gets worse and worse and worse. So don't worry about it. Yeah. It's just the insanity of COVIDism, the mythology of it now it's so painfully overwhelming. And in order to engage, I hope Adam, out of this conversation, maybe I'll get a little more clarity because I think there's a big opportunity to step up and confront COVIDism that we as a movement are missing. So when it was 2 weeks to flatten the curve and there's all these graphs, I was like, all right, well, let's look at the curve of tyranny that's developing in this. And I actually did a chart on my whiteboard and like you see the curve of tyranny, it ramps up like this and first it's this and then it's this, but there's going to be a peak and there's a limit. And they can, at worst, really just sort of bully us into hazmat suit world. And I think I didn't really anticipate how susceptible Americans still are to manipulation from the powers that be that would exploit us as we see happening right now. The purpose of government is to make the rich richer at the expense of the rest of us. It's working very well right now. And there are a couple big questions, Adam, and And I'm only starting to even, I assume you're only going to get to ask, you ask a big question like that, you get one question for the hour, man. We're going to keep going on this one.
Strap in.
Yeah, really, because I want to give credit to my friend Mike Adams, the Health Ranger, naturalnews.com, for getting me to face up to one particular element of COVIDism, which is the population control element of it. And he would say a depopulation agenda, and jump to that. And I will say, I do think Mike Adams is guilty of a little bit of sensationalism, but it's like, it's really important shit to get people's attention that's entirely valid and under-recognized. And for me, it was just understanding that there is a super class. There is, however you want to describe it, there is a group of elites. You can, it's not like there's a group, like they're coordinated, right? You could say the 100 most powerful people in the world, the 300, the 3,000 most powerful people in the world. And that's arbitrary and subjective. And is it just money and power and influence? And how do you weigh those things out? Obviously, it's very subjective. But of all of the architects of COVID policy, some of them believe in depopulation. To what extent are they steering the policy? I don't know. I've had some stuff going on in my family even recently regarding, vaccine effects. And I don't even want to say more than that. But at the same time, I'm still struggling to grappling with the implications of what does it mean that there is some deliberate effort to kill large numbers of people right now. And it might be callousness. I'm not trying to be presumptive or tinfoil hat, accusatory in even of the most evil people in the world here, but they're at least killing people without regard for their lives. They're at least, and this is nothing fucking new. It seems like it is. Hello, I was in Iraq. We're talking about poor men dying to line rich men's pockets. They're willing to kill millions of Iraqis. They're willing to let, how many troops die when you add up the suicide and people, veterans dying with pharmaceutical issues.
Over lies, weapons of mass destruction.
They lied to kill for profit. You think it's going to be any different around COVID and the vaccines? No. So Adam, I'll throw it back to you here to see if you want to respond to any of that. But like the two big questions I hope we can kind of get at are like, where is this going? What is the momentum of this? How do we fight it or help humanity get past it, right? And how much of a population control agenda is there baked into this? It could be very little. It could be as little as it's kind of a side effect and they just don't care about your lives. And if you die to make them richer and more powerful over everybody else, they'll let you die. That's part of the human story we have to be willing to admit to, right?
Yeah.
It could be as bad as, we're trying to kill 7 out of 8 billion people.
That's a scary thing to think about. And just to break down what you're saying a little bit, the idea that we're going to have this system being put in place. You mentioned the word COVIDism, right? It's like, it's almost become like a cult, like a religion, right? Like science, right? Science is supposed to be scientists and medical professionals are able to question and all come together. Hey, what about this? But
whatever I believe is science, and if you don't agree with me, you're rejecting science.
Right. And what they'll do is they'll cancel and attack and destroy medical professionals and scientists who will go against this authoritarian narrative. It's like, here's the narrative that it is. It's that the government and this establishment, this corporations and these, like you were saying, these elites are going to control every single aspect of every single thing. And if any scientist or medical professional comes out and shows findings that go against this narrative, fuck those people. Let's cancel them and censor them and attack and destroy them. And to me, that's not science, dude. That's a religion. That's like corporate scientism.
Now,
right?
if you don't have the right to be wrong, you don't have freedom of speech. If you don't have the ability to question, you don't have a legitimate process of scientific inquiry.
Right. So the idea that, okay, this pandemic that leaked from a fucking lab, it's definitely looking like, right? Okay.
you sure about that? Because I don't know. I genuinely want to ask you, are you sure? Because my decision on that subject was, you know what? We'll probably never know for sure about this exact virus. And it's a rabbit hole, not really worth going down. And it almost doesn't matter for fighting or the implications.
It doesn't matter.
Because, because it's a possibility, and we recognize regardless that it's still a possibility. As big and powerful and secretive as governments of the world are, they've got worse viruses in labs than COVID. Like, we know that. And they've done worse things than release viruses worse than COVID. So the origin of this thing, do I want to go down that rabbit hole and get lost?
If we were to go down that rabbit hole and put on our tinfoil hats, the idea of like releasing this crazy deadly virus, that wouldn't make sense, because the elites and shit. I mean, we're talking about a virus with, what is it, like under 70? It's like a 99.8% survival rate. Like the idea of releasing an actually crazy deadly virus where like these people who are doing that would actually be affected by that. That's fucking crazy. They would never do that.
This is where I have to introduce this crazy other possibility that occurs to me. That maybe if there is a really scary depopulation agenda, it might be by releasing a virus that's almost harmless and creating this controversy so that they can follow it up with a virus that's actually seriously harmful and nobody takes it seriously.
Well, yeah, but then they're putting themselves at risk.
Yeah, right? Yes, thank you. That is a very important point in this analysis. That the elites, whatever, Obama's birthday party, that royal whatever the fuck banquet at the palace in England, like they are not afraid of the virus, and they can pretend to get the vaccine, and they can know that a mild virus out there, they can handle it. But if a serious virus, if you see the elites start to hide from viral exposure to the human petri dish, that's when it's time to get afraid.
Yeah, man. All right. And just to take the tinfoil hat off a little bit, let's talk about things in the aspect of real world. Okay. So what has happened with this virus is, whether it got released from a lab or not, fuck it, doesn't matter. Okay. We've had a virus spread around the world, and whether, it's actually killing people, I don't think anybody can disagree with that. Right. But what's happened as a result of this is we've had authoritarianism rise to incredible levels that we've never seen it before. And the idea is that it's to keep you safe and healthy. And these governments and billionaires and establishments are doing all this to keep you safe and healthy. But the question becomes, how safe and healthy is it to have authoritarianism and these fucking insane proven lunatics control every single you look through history. We look at this. Every time this happens, it never is safe and healthy. Never, ever. It's never turns out dope. It's just dystopian nightmares over and over and over again throughout history. We can validate this. Just open a history book. But now we have this idea that, oh, no, these people that have always, you mentioned the Iraq war, they lied about weapons of mass destruction, all of these lies over and over again. Suddenly now, these same billionaires and fucking corrupt politicians, now suddenly they're bending over backwards and doing all this because they love you and they need to make you safe and healthy. When we look at the consequences, to me, I don't know, dude, that doesn't seem so safe and healthy. What do you think?
It's not even believable. And I think you and me talking about this, and I'm assuming your audience is relatively woke to this shit. We're not introducing
not necessarily.
Well, okay. At least they're open-minded enough to be listening to you, right? So I assume they're not COVIDists. They're not, if you're hooked into the mythology, you don't listen to, sacrilegious heretics and infidels like us who want to kill your grandma. You don't even listen to us. And I've been censored by, banned on YouTube recently, shadow banned everywhere else, censored by Joe Rogan. One of my proudest accomplishments, I should say.
What?
Yeah, no, I don't want to get too sidetracked by this, but when Joe Rogan took his $100 million Spotify deal, my episode with him got erased from his archive.
Of course.
And it'd be one thing if he was open about it, but him and Alex Jones lied about it and said it was Spotify having technical difficulties. And it's like, you just gave someone $100 million contract and you can't figure out how to move an audio file.
Well, listen, dude, we'll move off of this in a second, but just to like show the other side of that, I think that Joe Rogan is in a very interesting position because I think he's like the biggest podcast in the world, right? He has like the most reach, right? So that comes with a lot of responsibility, okay? And if you're going to sign a contract with Spotify, who's this multi-billion-dollar or this crazy big huge corporation, right? And they're going to make decisions and shit, man. Listen, when it comes down to either defending Adam Kokesh or kind of getting $100 million and riding the line of, yeah, fuck it, no, it's just technical to get, dude, they're going to go with the technical difficulty.
Yeah,
like, it's not anything against you.
I mean, are you calling Joe Rogan a sellout? Are you saying that like he compromised his principles and his integrity for money? I mean, I think that's fair. It's I don't think he understands that when you sell out like that, the effect of it is so destructive to having a truthful conversation, to the potential of the power of the internet to move humanity forward. Because if he didn't sell out, if he kept his integrity, he could have an actual impact as opposed to being the controlled opposition that he is now, where he has owners and he has handlers and he has people who says, well, you can talk about this, but you can't talk about that. And here's your line and here's your lane. And what he's done is he's put himself into that, and he's taken his audience and robbed them of the truth, essentially. And that's.
I think it's a little. I don't mean to harp on this, but I think it's more complicated than that, because he's in a position where he can't just have the conversations that we're having right now, dude. He'll be censored and canceled, and CNN will be blasting. Dude, he mentioned one thing about him taking.
That's the same, but what you're saying about him is just as true about Don Lemon on CNN. He could tell the truth, but if he tells the truth, he doesn't get that awesome CNN job, so he's going to be a CNN propagandist. Joe Rogan, if he tells the truth, he can't have the support of Spotify. But I'd rather have my integrity and have an impact than have the money and the fame. And I think that really speaks to the deficiency of his character. And that he doesn't have the integrity to tell the truth to his audience. And it's funny because he called out CNN recently for essentially lying about horse medicine, but it's not like he's a hypocrite when he's doing just as much to pervert the conversation. And it's funny that he's got an apparent working relationship with Alex Jones, because Alex Jones was the ultimate controlled opposition example of the 9/11 truth movement, where the establishment of AM radio helped him get big and then controlled him. And when they decided that they couldn't control him or that they had no more use for him, we just saw that he lost his case today, by the way, with Sandy Hook. When you let yourself be a pawn of the establishment, they'll use you and abuse you. And really the only excuse that I could make for Joe Rogan isn't the temptation of money or fame or a bigger platform. That's just selling out. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has a gun to his head, and I tell people this, around me, if the FBI comes to you and says, we're going to shoot your kids if you don't, lie about Adam Kokesh in court, fucking lie about me. Yeah, do it, So I don't want to come from a place of like personal condemnation, because I don't know his entire life. I don't judge him like that. But I judge what I see, and I will not reserve judgment, and I will not excuse lying for money.
I understand. And I don't necessarily think it's 100% lying for money. I just think that it's more of like, dude, this is a chess game.
But why did he lie? Oh, so what did he lie about?
What did he lie about?
He lied when he said it was technical difficulties. And then he admitted it later. Right. So he lied. Like, he directly lied and indirectly admitted it. The lie was, these episodes aren't being censored. We're just not moving them for technical difficulties. We'll get to it. That was the lie that him and Alex Jones told after Rogan got the Spotify deal. And I give Rogan every benefit of the doubt until he admitted it sideways on a podcast where he said, well, and I forget the wording. It was a one line aside, but he basically said, yes, those episodes I had to compromise. And it's like, okay, so you're admitting that it was not technical difficulties without addressing the fact that you lied about it when you said it was technical difficulties. And I'm just like, you know what? That needs to be addressed, Joe.
I understand. And then we'll shift gears. We'll shift gears after we get off of this. Sure. But just to kind of round this off, put yourself in Joe Rogan's position, okay?
Right.
You have the biggest podcast in the history of the world. You have the most influence and reach to all these people, and you have these two sides tugging at you. You have all these corporate interests. You have all these other people that want you to keep it real. It's not like Joe Rogan just goes on and suck the establishment's dick. He doesn't do that. He has real conversations. Like, he just called out CNN for all their bullshit. He does this a lot. He has people like, I don't know if you saw the Jim Brewer one where he was talking about how this whole COVID hysteria is a fucking magic spell.
Sure. Yeah, but here's the difference. Here's why I was censored. And so, like, none of this excuses lying. Like, so if you asked me to put myself in Joe Rogan's shoes, sorry, I have integrity. I don't lie. I don't lie to my audience. I don't do that. I don't believe in lying. So no, I would not lie. But here's the thing that's so important. I want you to see about why someone like me gets censored and why other libertarians are allowed to be on Joe Rogan's show. And why he has those conversations and how that makes him controlled opposition. Because the alternative, and what I advocate for, is that libertarianism has implications. It's not a political message. It's a message of morals and ethics and self-ownership as the foundation for the non-aggression principle. Don't hit, don't steal, don't kill, not unless you have a badge, or a uniform or a law backing you up. Those are universal moral ethics, and there are implications. And here's the important part, because what I just said, plenty of libertarians are saying that. Very few of us, and anytime anybody's saying something like what I'm saying gets any kind of traction, we get censored, we get suppressed. I've seen it over and over. I've been doing this as a full-time activist since I got out of the Marine Corps November 30, 2006. Next March, I'd say I got to DC and officially started my full-time activism career with Iraq Veterans Against the War. The thing is, I advocate civil disobedience. I advocate changing your lifestyle, and I embody that. I'm living here in Gardenia on my homestead, 11 acres in the mountains of Arizona. I am off-grid. I live sovereign. I drive without a license. My vehicle is not registered, without a plate on it even. I don't pay taxes except where I absolutely have to, and sales tax, which I minimize. I am self-sufficient for electricity with solar power here. I'm at least set up to be for water and for food, completely self-sufficient off-grid. And I live in a way that doesn't contribute to the evil of the system. And if the people running the system can get us, who recognize that the system is fundamentally evil, to listen to someone like Joe Rogan and say, yeah, the system is evil, but you know what? We should more or less submit and comply. We should sell out.
Saying that though?
Yeah. Well, has he advocated civil disobedience? Has he engaged in it? It's almost more destructive to truth, reality, and human progress and justice to say, oh, the system is evil, but I don't know what to do about it. Or we should vote for Bernie Sanders like he did, or whatever it is that he is missing in his message. The establishment is happy to let him be who he is because he doesn't challenge them. If he really challenged them, he'd be censored too. He wouldn't be given a $100 million deal.
Exactly.
If they couldn't control him, they wouldn't give him that. So he has allowed himself to be controlled and to be neutered, and what he is doing is a disservice to truth and justice, and I would say to the cause of freedom itself, because now people who might be inclined to believe in freedom get a perverse version of the message that says, yeah, the system is flawed, but hey, this is the best we can do. Go ahead and vote for Bernie Sanders. Listen to Joe Rogan. Go back to sleep. Don't change your life significantly. Submit. Most importantly, don't listen to Adam Kokesh. Don't engage in civil disobedience. Don't really change your lifestyle and submit to the authorities. If you get offered money, it's okay to lie and sell out.
All right. So what do you recommend, right? For the people, the 6 people watching right now or whatever it is, what do you recommend, for anybody who sees the shit that we're talking about right now? When we were talking about earlier, like the COVIDian thing, and you see shit's fucked up, man. Like this shit ain't adding up. They're lying to us. There's been a lot of things they've been even caught in lies on, and you're noticing this thing, and you're seeing this authoritarianism come crashing down on you, and it's affecting everybody's life. What is the answer? What do you do? Like, as a person watching this, what can I do? I don't know.
Yeah.
What would you do?
Well, I would be a liar if I told you that I had the perfect comprehensive answer for everyone. But I do have some general guidelines and principles that have empowered me to live better and happier, and to know that I am doing everything I can to push back against this, and to be a warrior, to embody the reasons for which I enlisted in the Marine Corps in the first place, and found out that it was being perverted into, soldiering, killing for politicians instead of standing up and doing the right thing. And so, fortunately, in today's day and age, being a warrior is a relatively peaceful endeavor. It's more in the Gandhian tradition, the MLK Jr. civil disobedience tradition of saying, I will not comply. But that doesn't even always have to be breaking the law. It can be simply sidestepping it. And that's a big part of what I've done, and saying, I'm going to live off grid. I'm going to be self-sustaining. I'm not going to take a job working for the man where I'm working for government half the year. Because this is really fucked up. And just this is going to go back to the Joe Rogan point and really drive home the significance of this, right? The average working American who has a job working for the man where they pay taxes and they have a W-2 and the income taxes are deducted from their paycheck. For the average person in America in that situation, I know there's a lot less of them now, but for the average working American, by that definition, you are working for government half the fucking year. The taxes that you see taken out of your paycheck is one part of it, and it's bad enough. But you add up all the fees, fines, taxes, hidden costs of everything baked into that, it adds up to 50% of your paycheck. You want to complain about the evils of government when you're 50% a government employee, or worse, because you are just taking money out of the productive sector and giving it to the destructive sector of government, if that is your lifestyle. And to me, that is, once you realize that that's what that means, that having that job, paying those taxes, being tied into the system like that, that you are fundamentally, you are in a matrix pod, by the metaphor of the movie.
Yeah.
I like dating myself. It was really big for my generation of libertarians, the whole Matrix movie and the analogy of that. But it's like, hey, why go sit and stew in a pod of pink slime when you can unplug yourself, at least step out of it as much as you possibly can. And it really is about a change in mindset and a commitment to living by ethical principles and to living to your own standard of excellence. A lot of what we see in the COVIDism, to bring it back to that, is a worship of authority and a sort of a celebration of mediocrity, of acceptance, of being a part of the herd, of lowering your standards to the lowest common denominator. It very much reminds me in its mentality of, there's a Kurt Vonnegut novel where, to make society equal, they make stronger humans wear bags full of lead balls that weigh them down, so no one is faster or stronger than anybody else. And it has to be a fundamental shift in your attitude to in an absolutely unreserved way, celebrate the beautiful divinity of the human will that has been bestowed upon each and every one of us. And anything less than that is to squander your time here on earth, to live any less vibrantly than the potential that you have been given by virtue of being an independent human consciousness, and assuming that everybody listening to me right now falls into that category, right? And that you have the healthy enough human body to even support that is such an incredible gift. To say, oh, I'm just going to do what I'm told. I'm going to give that up to someone else. I'm going to let someone else take my autonomy. People say they want leaders in the movement. And it's like, I'm willing to be a leader by example. I'm willing to be an organizational leader. I'm willing to lead, but no, ultimately the message of freedom has to be, lead your fucking self. Take charge and acknowledge that gift that is that individual will and that autonomy. And what comes from that is not an acceptance of the world as it is. Because when people like that see a bully or stupidity or just irrationality in the world that's hurting people, we call it out. We confront it directly. We do not just blindly submit or go along to get along. And so when to bring it back to your question, to the practicality, I'm not going to try to prescribe what it is for you. For me, it's driving without a license and without my vehicle registered. It's building here on my own land as if government doesn't exist, or as if I am the government here because I'm the king. I am the sovereign. I am King Adam Charles Kokesh, the first of Gardenia. This is my homestead. This is my sovereign territory. And you can't tell me I need to buy your fucking permission to put a trailer on here so I can camp here more than 10 consecutive days because of your zoning regulations? No, I don't think so. You know, to me, I'm not going to listen to someone like Fauci, who's like, you know, people want to say, well, by American standards, he's not obese, so he must be healthy. No, he's and I hate to make it about appearance or other people's like physical fitness, but really, you want me to take health advice from you? And one of the things that is so destructive, I'll connect it to COVID for a second here, is the assumption of conformity and a lack of individuality, that a health prescription can be prescribed universally to every human being in a population.
Yeah, dude. Seriously.
That the best person to make medical decisions for you is you.
Yeah.
And there will always have, if they say, no, we don't differentiate, everybody has to conform, that's not someone who cares about your health. That's obvious. And so to me, taking charge of my health, the autonomy, you know, that's a really important thing. It's kind of like having tattoos. I think of tattoos, and it's separate from everything else. I'm sidebar on one little fun cultural thing for me. But when I see someone with tattoos, you know, that are visible, and mine are sort of semi-visible. I have, you know, big ones other places, but mine are sort of semi-visible. But when I see someone with like the arm tattoos or forearm tattoos or face and neck stuff, like that's an assertion of independence. That's an assertion of self-ownership. You can't tell me I can't draw on my own body or pay someone to draw on your body. It's, you're taking charge of that. And I think one of the reasons that tattoos are so popular in our generation isn't just the immediate cultural phenomena, but the appeal of taking that back. And the powers that be say, oh, you're frustrated with the fact that you're working for government half the year, that you're a fucking slave, that you're a pussy beta who has no real say in the direction of their life. Oh, we'll let you draw on your body. Go ahead, get tattoos. That's cool. Get tattoos. You can get tattoos as long as you keep paying your taxes. You know, and this goes back to it was one of Nixon's aides watching the Vietnam War protests, and he was watching the protests go past the White House, massive protests against the Vietnam War, and he told Nixon, they can protest all they want as long as they keep paying their taxes. You know, that's the difference. Now, does that sort of answer that question?
Yeah. So you said a lot of things there. My mind's just going crazy. I want to go into all these different avenues, but as a person, right? So this is just what's going through my mind as I'm listening to you talk. And I want to try to translate into any audience that might be watching. Like as a person, I'm listening, you're living on the Kokesh Ranch, right? And you have solar panels and you're living off grid. You don't pay, you know, the taxes, and you just do the voluntary taxes and this and that. Like, dude, I would fucking love to be in that position. But it's like, wait a minute though.
But you're full of good excuses, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, but then I'm gonna have to. And I go through all the things.
Off right there.
Yeah,
I love Adam. I have too much love for someone like you as a brother in what we are doing, as a fellow warrior, to let you just run your mouth with excuses for 10 minutes. I understand.
What do I do to get into your position? I would love to be in that position. How do I get there? What do I do? And what are the people watching this? How do you get to where you are?
It's different for everybody. And I'll give you a little bit of my story as one example, because again, everybody has different opportunities, different resources available. But let me give a sort of baseline that has given me a sort of standard that I do kind of hold other people to when they say, well, I'm a libertarian. I believe in this, and these are my principles. And well, do you act on your principles, or do you just talk your principles? Because then they're not really principles. They're just ideas that sound nice to you. They're bullshit.
Kind of full of shit.
It's, yeah. You know, you're just jerking yourself off.
How do you do it?
So and I do want to recognize that there is a certain logistical element that I'm describing that is beyond a lot of people. And that's fine. If you're disabled, it's going to be harder for you to get the economic resources to overcome that, to live certain practical, independent ways. I get that. I'm not trying to presume other people's abilities, right? But, and before I even answer that, the most important thing is to flip that switch. It's not outcome oriented, it's direction oriented. Have you adopted that direction? Have you made that switch for your life to say, I am going to, with ruthless honesty, examine my principles, and with a commitment to living well, make an honest effort to live by them? And if you are even just high school graduate, delivering pizzas, no special economic advantages, no rich parents, no family, no greater community, no opportunities, fine. Even if that's the baseline you're starting from, can you live frugally for 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, if that's what it takes? Can you save up? Or do you have the commitment to have the discipline to just be financially organized enough to save up $10,000? Because you know what? You can make the leap for that much. You can find a piece of land. You can, you know what? Let me say $20,000. Let me be a little more conservative here in my expectations, right? Do you want a vehicle? You want an RV trailer, something comfortable, and a piece of land. And that's not it for everybody. Maybe you've got a family member. Maybe you've got a house that's already off grid, and it's just a matter of making the commitment to everything else in your lifestyle being in line with that. Maybe you already own your house. You're not paying a mortgage, and it's just you got to sell that and take that chunk of resource, that chunk of money, and make this leap. Part of it is when you can accept the compromise. And for me, making this move, I still shit in a bucket. I don't have indoor. I actually have 2 indoor plumbing systems in RVs, and prefer to shit in a bucket in an outhouse because that's more ecologically friendly here for me to be able to do human manure compost. And so, but it's like, are you willing to smell your own poop and sawdust? By the way, if you're eating a lot healthier, it's not going to bother you anyway. Believe I'm vegetarian, almost vegan, and my shit doesn't stink. I fart a lot, but it doesn't smell. But no, if you're willing to just divorce from the expectations that have been conditioned into you, it's amazing what opens up as possibilities. And again, so that's sort of like about you get $20,000. You can find a piece of land for $5,000. You get a functional trailer for $5,000. You can buy a functioning pickup truck for $5,000, and you can have $5,000 left over to get set up and have a budget, a runway, if you will, to buy groceries while you figure out how to be food self-sustaining. If that's the mechanism of it that works for you. I only throw that out as one example of moving in my direction and sort of how I did it. I had a 19-foot travel trailer that cost me $4,000. To be fair, I put a few thousand into fixing it up. I was more making it pretty for the Freedom Book Tour. And then I bought this 11 acres here for $13,000. It's a lot more now, but to make this work and to be happy and to have a functional homestead, you don't need a piece of land as big or as nice as what I bought, which crazy real estate prices today would probably cost closer to 20 to 25,000. Yeah, it's doubled in the last in the 5 years that I've been here. The sort of monetary value of this land, but it's not like the price or value of it has inherently gone up. She's like, oh, just acknowledge the purchasing power of the dollar has plummeted by about that.
Man. Yeah, and it brings up interesting things. There's so much shit, again, that keeps coming to my mind when, I'm hearing you talk here. I would love nothing more to be in the position that you're in, right? And I hope that anybody listening could get, some awesome shit out of that. One thing I'm kind of banking on right now to get that kind of money. I mean, I probably already have close to that, but are you into crypto at all?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I've had a lot of financial challenges the last couple of years. I've had to liquidate my holdings, so to speak.
Okay.
I don't have any significant crypto investment, but it has helped me a lot.
Yeah.
I've made a lot of, I don't want to say I've made, quick sidebar on that. I just put in a wood stove in my cabin here.
Okay.
And I bought that wood stove in January at Home Depot, and it cost $410. If I went to go buy that now at Home Depot, $530 in just 10 months.
Inflation, right?
One measure of inflation. And here's the thing, and I oftentimes I am very disappointed in my performance as an investor and being able to be disciplined in managing my crypto holdings and succumbing to temptations of, oh, I got to liquidate for this thing or this emergency or this effort, but like I said, I've had some challenges over the last couple of years, and I've been grateful that I had the financial reserves to meet them and stay able to meet my general expenses comfortably out here. But if you add in the fact that my wood stove means that I don't have to buy any propane for heating my cabin this winter, as an investment, it actually outperformed Bitcoin. And in ways, it was really fun. We actually, I'll stop because we talked about this for like 20 something minutes on my podcast the other week after I did it. Did I mention I put in a wood burning stove? Yeah. Did I mention it? It's a dumb instant joke, but we hacked apart the economic analysis, and by a lot of ways, buying my wood burning stove outperformed Bitcoin. And it's like, I don't get me wrong. I'm not shitting on crypto at all. I am an evangelist. I am a true believer. Crypto is gonna take us out of the fiat currency system one way or another. There's going to be some 2 steps forward, 1 step back in that process. I'm not a Bitcoin maximalist or an altcoiner. I'm agnostic on that count. But as for the potential of crypto to move us out of this destructive, fiat currency system, I'm about as a true believer as you can get.
Yeah, a couple things. It's like most people, when they have the idea of like getting a bunch of money, like, you make a bunch of money in the crypto game. It's like, oh, what color Ferrari do I want? And how many bedrooms do I want in my LA mansion? And you begin to think about all these ridiculous goals that aren't going to really make you self-sufficient or even happy as a person, but on the outside makes you look dope to everybody. And I'm on your page, dude. Like, if I ever was able to get that kind of money, I would definitely do the route you're doing. But to get into the crypto thing a little bit, like you were saying that that's the future. I see a lot of upsides with crypto, and I see a lot of avenues for people to make money. But I also see a lot of, like, you look at the double-edged sword of it, the bell curve. It's just like, in an environment where we move, where there's no such thing as cash, and we're in this like digital currency thing, and everything's on record and everything's digital, that seems dangerous as fuck to me. Right.
So if I may, I want to address that quickly and go back to the bigger topic we started with. And
okay,
on that count, your fear, your concern is absolutely rational. However, my analysis suggests that it's almost irrelevant, because by the time we get to a world where fiat currency is not a thing, and I don't want to presume how much you've studied this. I read Ron Paul's book and the Fed, way back.
Yeah.
Ago now. I back in the Ron Paul days, I did the thorough economic analysis, and I feel like I have a sense of all of the trickle down effects of the fiat currency system. And I think if you include all of that in your analysis as mostly going away, with fiat currency going away, and all the systems of control that are associated and dependent on the fiat, like, I'm not that worried that, at some point there's this existential risk that you describe, as legitimate as it is, because I am very confident that by the time we get to that point, humanity will have so fundamentally evolved that threat is almost insignificant. Does that make sense?
I hope so. The only way we're going to get there is if the authoritarian level gets taken down, because if we still have this huge authoritarian government in place as this is happening, dude, they're just going to take it over and just manipulate it in their own way. And all the shit that we love about, what is it, blockchain, they're going to it's just going to all fall into that shit. So the idea hopefully being that as that rises, the authoritarianism falls, because if it doesn't, dude,
I think if it has to, but let me change the subject slightly,
Yeah.
because
Okay.
that's a perfect segue to get back to your original question of like, what do we do about the bigger picture of where we're going right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it was sort of, well, several questions, but again, to split it into two is, to understand where it is, where we're going, and the trajectory of things, and then, where, what do we do about it? And I, this is where I don't know decisively, and I think it would be arrogant of anyone to suggest that they have the answer. But I hope that, and Adam, man, I really appreciate all of your pushback in this interview. It's been so fun, because it brings out, a little bit of challenge and passion in me. And I'm like, no, brother, let me share this. It's so important. So when it comes to that bigger picture and the political stuff, I hope that my answers in terms of the individual level of lifestyle are satisfactory, because they very much are to me. I'm very confident in that side of things, that living by your principles, not contributing to the evil of the system, being healthier and happier as a result of living by those values is I'd like to think that I embody here. But on the bigger scale of things, there are a couple of challenges before us, and one is waking the sleeping masses, and getting past the gatekeepers like Joe Rogan, who want to tell you that the system is fucked, but you should submit to it anyway,
Mhm.
and or subtly imply that. Excuse me, don't want to presume or jump to assumptions with Joe Rogan. All I know is that he's about censoring me, and we'll leave. That's enough. And into the bigger what's getting censored. So politically, my answer is localization, decentralization,
Yeah.
connected to Bitcoin and blockchain. And in that realm, I have two answers. I have a top-down answer and I have a bottom-up answer. And the top-down answer is my presidential campaign platform, is that deliberate political decentralization. And what I suggest is dissolving the federal government of the United States in a peaceful, orderly, responsible manner that leaves us with 50. I'm just going to go through my campaign talking points, right? No, but that we get rid of the federal government in a responsible way that localizes it down to 50 states. Eventually, we get down to counties. Eventually, we get down to cities. Eventually, we get down to communities where government is essentially voluntary and people can opt in and out of communities that serve them. And there's that ultimate competition between governing systems. As a libertarian, as a voluntarist, I know this raises some semantic issues. Is it government if it's voluntary and not coercive? I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. Is it government if it's peaceful and community based, or is that a community? I don't care. This is something that has the potential to unify people.
Totally.
We're all unified in saying this
Yeah.
current sucks and the current federal government is evil and corrupt and not fucking working.
Right.
So at least have the national divorce, but in a more thoughtful, principled, deliberate, consistent way that says, look, the more we localize, the more customized and flexible.
Exactly.
So
oh, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Because we don't have a lot of time. I kind of want to just want to get your response to the big picture here. So that's the top down. If I can be successful politically, if I can win the nomination of the Libertarian Party in 24 and get this message into the mainstream like this, then we have a chance of winning. Maybe not with me, but maybe sometime in the next decade or two with someone on a similarly radical, as in striking at the root. That's what the word radical means. Not extreme, not fringe, radical, as in getting to the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
As radical an approach as this, we can get that fundamental change that we need. That might not be possible. Fuck if I know. And this is where I like Adam. I appeal to you. I appeal to your audience. But the bottom-up answer, the bottom-up version is buy land, live sovereign,
Totally. Yeah.
create sustainable communities, and build those communities that make those bigger systems of government irrelevant. You can make them pretty darn irrelevant in your life immediately by jumping to this lifestyle, or by at least living by those principles and those values. But you know what? I don't know. Honestly, as in regards to COVID, how do we push back? My answer, in a sense, when you say, what do we do? Where are we going? We are not quite at the high water mark of government, but I think we're close. And I am I am very confident in prescribing these two solutions of live by your principles, don't support evil with your lifestyle, right? And two, localization politically. Whether that's enough, I don't know.
Yeah. And here's
I
what
don't.
I like about you said. We'll round this out. We're almost at the end here. I like the idea of localization because of this, is because the idea that we're going to get everybody, the 350 million people, or however many people are in the United States, to all agree and go, yeah, we're just going to have this head chimp run everything, and he's going to make all the decisions. It's ridiculous, right? So the idea of like maybe this community, they might want socialism, and maybe me and you disagree with socialism.
Yeah.
But then fuck it. I don't need to be in this community. I can be over here, and you can have this community rock it this way, and like-minded people, and everybody can just get along. And I like that about that, right? And hopefully in the future, we can move more in that direction of localization, because I don't like the idea that we're going to have this huge big brother government in Washington that's going to have all this authority over all this land and all these people. The localization thing seems way better of an idea. The people in the community give way more of a fuck about the community than the assholes in Washington, D.C.
Yep.
Right? And that's why I like the idea of localization.
Of centralization need to be acknowledged.
Yeah, right. So just to end this on a good note, you said you wanted to plug something at the beginning. I forget what it was.
Yeah. No, this has been a lot of fun.
Sorry.
I really appreciate the pushback. And if anybody wants to get into this, I do a weekly podcast now. We didn't really have the support to sustain the daily after we got censored, kind of working on rebuilding from that. But every Wednesday, I'm live on Odyssey, ODYSEE / at Adam Kokesh. I love Telegram, by the way. I've in wake of all of this censorship, seeing how it's developed as an independent messaging and content sharing platform. If you don't have the Telegram app, please download it. Please find me there. T.me / Adam versus the Man is my main political channel. We also have T.me / the Garden of Freedom, which is the Gardenia. It's Gardenia for short, obviously. The Garden of Freedom Telegram channel, where we post, fun stuff, pictures, announcements, what we're doing with homesteading. A lot of it's just cat and dog pictures because we have awesome puppies and kittens running around all the time.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. We have 4 dogs here. We're about to get 2 more with someone else. They're dogs, two more dogs, part of our canine community. We've got 8 semi-feral cats. 2 of them are pregnant right now, so we got 2 litters coming this winter. I'm really excited about. That's a great place to catch up on all of that. But the thing I wanted to plug, and this is kind of unrelated to the bigger stuff, but I'll bring it back, and you'll see why this is a unique opportunity for me. That's another part of my answer. And going back to that bigger picture, my favorite quote from Ron Paul is, if you're not having fun, you're not doing it right.
I love that. Yeah.
Their activism is motivated by a sense of guilt or shame or obligation, duty, responsibility. You got to move past all that. It's about love and opportunity and giving and serving and helping humanity progress. Like that is a much more sustainable, positive, and effective. You want to be effective, to bring to your activism. So, Homefront Battle Buddies is our new veterans nonprofit, and it's homefrontbattlebuddies.org. We've got really cool stickers because I designed the logo myself. Homefront Battle Buddies.
Nice.
We've got promo cards. If anybody wants some of these, you can email us. Right now, it's homefrontbattlebuddies@gmail.com. We'd love to mail out these postcards. My program director, Ed Vallejo, longtime libertarian activist also, and Ron Paul guy out of Phoenix. We just recently went to Bozeman, Montana. Crazy drive from here, there, and back. A lot of fun stuff on the way, promoting the organization for a suicide prevention course. And the reason we did that is because the vision for this organization is to provide a safe space for veterans to be able to experiment with alternative therapies safely. So cannabis, psilocybin, ayahuasca, MDMA, ketamine, those are kind of like the big 5 that I'm excited about. But as a nonprofit, of course, we don't touch anything illegal. We just facilitate. and make sure that veterans have the freedom that they told us we fought for, right? And there's a model that we're creating with this that is really sorely needed right now, because there are a lot of people working on this within a host of legal restrictions and red tape. Whereas out here, we're just like, hey, we're veterans getting stoned in the woods. You want to come fuck with us? Come at me, bro. Really? And all the promises of all of these alternative therapies are still missing the practical delivery model. We want to do that starting with veterans and create a model that can work for everybody. And at the same time, stand up to the bullshit hypocrisy of what's left of the drug war and say, no, you can't. If veterans don't have the right to do this, what chance does everybody else have? And, we like to say, put us on the front lines, use this as the battering ram to knock down the rest of the drug war. And there's a lot that people can do out here to help this effort. As a 501c3, all contributions are tax deductible, whether they're in-kind contributions or monetary or even services. Whatever we can legally do to help people with who are helping with this effort pay less in taxes, we want to do. If anybody, if you're not a veteran and you want to come out and help, you're making a deal with me instead of the organization to come out and help with construction here in Gardenia or anything else that I've got homesteading. If it's with the organization directly, that's cool too. Whether you're a veteran or not, it's not an essential criteria. But for our services and our programs, right now we have an internship program where any veteran is welcome to come out here if they're going to get something out of the facility that we already have. We don't have the full facility that we want to make these experiences safe for everyone. So what we're doing is building construction-wise, like literally hands-on Earthship style, passive solar, packed earth tire buildings that eventually we're going to have a lodge with a barracks attached to it, so we can host retreats for veterans where every guy who's or gal, they're obviously women included. Military sexual trauma is something that women in the military don't get enough attention to. It is an absolutely horrific problem on the scale of combat PTSD. Military rape and sexual abuse of women in the military is a hugely under-recognized problem. So definitely going to be a deliberate effort to make sure that women are accommodated separately in retreats here as well. But that we can have independent barracks rooms or dorm rooms, one-man rooms, that you got a door that closes in that private space, and that we have the appropriate staff and support to make all that safe. That's what we're building to. And I hope whether you're a veteran or not, you see the veteran suicide rates, and you see the potential of psychedelics and even cannabis not being realized because government is still in the way. And I hope this is motivating for you to at least come. If you don't have a cause, you're looking for one, come help me out for a while. I'll get you on course. I'll get you motivated. And one of the things that motivated me, I'll just end with this personal story very quickly. When I got back from Iraq, I was having trouble sleeping, and I went to the VA in Washington, D.C., the flagship of VA healthcare. And I talked to a shrink for 5 minutes. I was like, yeah, I'm having some nightmares. I kind of wake up, panicked, a little anxiety kind of attack in my sleep. And I wake up and, I have trouble falling asleep because I got involuntary memory recall from trauma that I haven't really processed yet. And instead of even giving me something to help sleep, I walked out of there with a little brown paper bag, 5 prescriptions. 3 of them had suicide listed as side effects.
Oh, God.
Like,
that's crazy.
My life just by keeping me from the temptation of those pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
Don't know. I might have done nothing. I might have not been susceptible. There was only one of those prescriptions I tried, and it was shit. Now I can't remember. It's been so many years. I haven't talked about the specifics. An anti-anxiety thing, like use as needed. And it was like smoking pot, but with a headache. And I was like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna smoke pot. And because I was involved with the Iraq Veterans Against the War, surrounded by hippies, I think I had good access to that, and I had the support that I needed to find a better way to deal with that. But it was because I had the support, I had the right people around me, I had the right motivations, and the courage to think for myself and to not just, oh well, doctor gave me these pills, so I'm going to take these pills. And I can't stress that enough. If in my message about thinking for yourself, leading yourself, setting your own course. You don't need a leader. You learn from everybody. Learn from examples. Take inspiration from anybody that you can. Take lessons from everybody who's going to enrich your life with wisdom and knowledge. But ultimately, it's you. It's all about you. No one else lives in your head but you. No one knows what's best for you. No one knows what your potential is to serve humanity or a greater cause than you. It has to be you. That individual will has to come from you. And if there's anything I can give people, it's the motivation to find that for themselves. And I hope, Adam, has been a lot of fun. I hope I've been able to share some of that with your audience tonight.
Oh, that's a wonderful way to end the podcast. I couldn't agree more, man. Look within yourself. And I hope that this conversation inspired critical thinking, not that necessarily everybody needs to agree with everything we've been talking about here, but check out that. I'm sorry, what was the name of the thing you were talking about at the end there?
Just quick again, all my contact information, Home Front Battle Buddies, or if you want to get involved with our veterans nonprofit, on Telegram, I have 3 main channels that I promote: t.me/Adam versus the Man, t.me/The Garden of Freedom, t.me/Home Front Battle Buddies for that. And for me personally, if anybody wants to just reach me, Adam at thefreedomline.com. So my personal email, Adam at thefreedomline.com. And Adam, thank you for this opportunity. If anybody enjoyed this, put a few clicks, or put your money where your mouth is. I always screw this phrasing up because I'm trying to say, if you sat through this, I assume you found it valuable enough to share with someone else who might sit through the whole thing. And independent media requires an active and engaged audience to be successful. Without you, people like me and the other Adam here can't do shit. So
totally,
thanks for
man. Absolutely. Check those things out. And Adam, dude, I appreciate you. This is like the 3rd or 4th time you've been on the show. And I really appreciate you coming on, man. I know you got a busy schedule. And thank you. I hope that everybody watching this could get something out of this. And thanks, man. I'm going to end the podcast right now. And check out Adam Kokesh's website and the thing he did there. I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that. I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. But yeah. So everybody check that out. And everybody, thank you for watching, who's watched this. And I hope you guys got something out of this. And Adam, thank you again for coming on. Appreciate you, man. Thank you.